So Thursday, everybody. Welcome in another episode here of Set Bet Spike on Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney, Eric Young here with you. Also live on our FTN Network YouTube page. Those hanging out, to see a few people hanging out here with us. Happy Thursday. Grab a cup of coffee, hang out. We got one last division to preview here today with you guys. Yes, cheers, EY. We want to also talk about the Flex League. We were in New York over the weekend. We took part in the redraft single quarterback Flex League, courtesy of Jake Seeley. We drafted live from the Perfect Pint. We had the Sirius XM Fantasy Sports radio show, Channel 87 live. Jake Seeley and myself breaking down two drafts, ours a little bit, and the Superflex draft, of course, via Jake Seeley. So it was a fantastic time to chop it up with EY. George was in the house. We had a really, really good time. We want to go over that draft as well. But it is the last division to preview here today. We've done them all. If you're looking for your favorite team, your favorite division, you can go back and find them on our FTN Network YouTube page. We've rolled through all of the divisions. We've rolled through the ADP of the players to draft, our strategy behind certain players, if we like them, if we don't like them, and also from a betting angle as well. Win totals, odds to win the division, odds to win the Super Bowl. And as we get closer and closer, preseason action already in the NFL, we're closer to week one. So the next couple episodes, maybe we'll do our favorite sleeper episodes, favorite targets, a couple players we're avoiding, and maybe a draft or two. But EY, it was great to see you, man, over the weekend. I had a blast. It was a big success at the Perfect Pint. It was a lot of fun to draft. You were sniping me. Jake was sniping me. Eisenberg was sniping me. It was just a whole lot of fun. It was a tough room, but I had a blast.
I mean, it's a super tough room. We talked about this a bit. It's Jake does an awesome job organizing it. It really is kind of the who's who in the fantasy world, right? There's lots of guys that aren't there, but I mean, everybody is super sharp. Everybody is super opinionated, and everyone knows every single player. So the reality is it's going to come down to luck. Even I have won it, which is awesome. But the truth is it's just going to come down to luck. One, it being this far out, there's injuries are going to happen. My team could be broken in half by the time we start playing actual football. But it's so fun. We see each other through this, twice a week and have for years, but we haven't seen each other in person since Montreal, I believe it was.
Since the world went on pause.
Just before COVID, which is wild. So it was awesome. A late squad, me, you, your now amazing fiance Deanna, and George, the FTN crew holding it down late. You guys stayed out even later than me. Tino was there. Too. Yeah, old school Tino. That was what a squad. What a week. Yeah. What a weekend. New York is an amazing city, but it wears you out. And we're rolling, man. Let's talk about this draft.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't slept in days. I want to say what up to the crew here. Hi, guys. What's up? Welcome in. We also have Woo Fantasy in the house as well. EY, Meaney, what's good, guys? Welcome in. We love it. So NFC North today, we'll get to the Bengals, the Browns, the Steelers, and the Ravens in just a touch. But let's start here with the draft. And we won't spend too much time on our teams. Nobody really cares about our teams. But you mentioned one guy. You mentioned like guys are going to get hurt. For me, already dealing with an injury, I think Rashid Shaheed I drafted, and then within hours, he was hurt. But this is the first look of the board. I posted a link inside the description of this video already in the comment section too. Let me know if you guys can see that. I'll do it one more time so you can get a look of the entire board. But our guy George made this up for us. It's too tough to put in 16 rounds, and it's really just tough to even take this in. So I just wanted to kind of make it 10 rounds and look at it this way. So EY, you walk us through your thoughts on the draft. We'll save your team for a little bit, but any surprises to you here in the first couple of rounds?
You mean like this is a lot of times I feel that these drafts, I mean, it's all experts, quote unquote, except for me. I consider myself an enthusiast rather than an expert. The truth is it's a lot of flag planting, right? Like people that believe this guy's going to outplay this guy's going to win the job, this guy's going to be a number one, whatever. Drafting Bijan Robinson that early it's crazy to me. And look, I respect Andrew Erickson. He is better at this than me. He probably knows more than me. He's a really super sharp guy. Bijan Robinson hasn't played a single down in the NFL. And I understand draft capital and this, that, and the other, but Tyler Algier is still there and played unbelievably last year. Cordero Patterson is still there and played really, really good for the last couple of years. Do I think he's going to get 90% of the carries, which would, or of the plays and, catch 70 balls and do all this other stuff? I think it's possible, but having him as your first round pick when there's other people like above Eckler, above Barkley, above Chubb, I think that's insane. I almost swore there. I almost swore. So yeah, I think that's insane. And I could be completely wrong, but I'm not drafting a guy that early that hasn't played a single down in the NFL. I'm just not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I have a hard time seeing him go. I mean, even went ahead of Austin Eckler. I get it. Like Bijan Robinson's probably going to have more carries, maybe more rushing yards, but Austin Eckler leads the NFL in touchdowns over the last 2 years. And it's just maybe, maybe he won't. It's possible he doesn't, but Austin Eckler leads all backs in touchdowns over the last couple of years. He's been a big time player in the receiving game. I'm sure Bijan will as well, but I still have a hard time seeing Bijan go ahead of Eckler, Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley. So Nick Chubb to myself there. We'll get into our teams in a little bit, but for those that are maybe listening here, the draft started Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. No surprise. That's how most drafts start, and that's how most drafts should start. CMC, number 3 there. Bijan Robinson, number 4. Austin Eckler to our guy, Coach Esser. Tyreek Hill. Jamie Eisenberg, man, I thought he had a fantastic draft. He was really just sniping. It was really tough to, Eisenberg, Seeley, and then me, and then you, and then Towers. Like these, you would feel like there was going to be a player that was coming to you. I remember... I don't know if it's in round 5. Like I had Watson queued up. I wanted Watson as my third wide receiver so bad, and I almost reached on him instead of Hawkinson. I'm like, maybe I can get this guy a little bit later on. And that's what happens, like you said, right? These guys, they're all super sharp. If there's a player that you like, just take them. So the queue just got ruined in the 5th with Watson, Sanders, Dobbins, and Akers to yourself. And then I went another way and went Justin Fields. But anyways, back to the Eisenberg with Tyreek Hill, Saquon to Jake, Chubb to myself. You took Cooper Kupp, fell to 1.9, of course, dealing with a hamstring injury. That's as far as I've seen him fall. I did a live draft yesterday on Mean Streets, and he still went 4th overall. Travis Kelce, Tony Pollard, Derrick Henry, then into the 2nd with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Stephon Diggs, Josh Jacobs, and the wide receiver run here. You sniped me with AJ. I was just dreaming of a Chubb and an AJ start, and I know that I sniped you with Chubb, so you return the favor with AJ. I went Garrett Wilson. These guys are all in the same tier for me. A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, CeeDee Lamb. It's all about preference. I think, CeeDee Lamb and Devontae Adams will probably have more targets, more grabs than Garrett Wilson and A.J. Brown. But I believe actually there's a higher ceiling there with A.J. Brown and Garrett Wilson. Jonathan Taylor here falls. And yesterday he went in the 4th round of a best ball draft. I'm seeing him go in the 3rd round. He is now, in this draft, he was RB 6, 7, 8, 9. Ramondre Stevenson at 10. And Jahmyr Gibbs at the end of the 2nd as RB 11. Chris Olave to round out round 2. Talk to me about Jonathan Taylor. Is he just completely off your list now? Like, do you think because there's certain players that I've just had to cross off at this point in drafts. I'm worried about Taylor. I'm worried about Jacobs. I love Stevenson and Breece Hall, but I'm worried that the Pats and the Jets are going to bring in somebody. Taylor is not with the team. He's nursing a couple injuries. There's some contract disputes going on. The owner is calling him out. He's calling out the owner. The team is interested in Kareem Hunt. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I love Jonathan Taylor as a player. If he's there in the 3rd, I'll pick him. If he's there in the end of the 2nd, maybe I'll pick him. But I have no problem just avoiding him altogether because I don't want to deal with the chaos. This is one guy.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think in the end, the almighty dollar wins, right? I mean, he's going to be looking down the barrel of the gun of not being paid. On the other side of that, as a human being, thinking about as a person, personal experience who walked away from a pile of money because I refused to work for a certain person, how does Jonathan Taylor play football on a team that's owned by Jim Irsay now, right? I mean, there's some pretty personal stuff said on both sides, Mostly on the Irsay side. He's a lunatic. He's a billionaire and doesn't care about anybody or anything. And that's his prerogative. And he's allowed to do that because he's white and he's rich and lives in the United States. So we're off to the races. And I don't know if Jonathan Taylor can play for them. That's going to be up to him. I don't know if they're willing to restructure his deal and pay him more or whatever it is, or if even that might be too late at this point. I'm not up on the collective bargaining agreement in the NFL as much as I maybe should be, but I've got him down as far as fantasy. I mean, I don't have him out completely, right? But I don't think I will get him because I've lowered him because it's just too much of a risk. You could take him, like you said, maybe in the end of the second round, third round, you can still get him there, which if he plays and starts is an unbelievable value, right? This guy should be going in the first round, early second.
Yeah.
If all this stuff wasn't happening. But people that ignore narrative, in my opinion, the mayor of Narrative Street, are fools. He may not play. We've seen this before with Le'Veon Bell in Pittsburgh, right? Like he missed an entire year of football and bet on himself and ended up getting paid anyways. So I don't know, man. I don't see how he could possibly play for the Colts. But crazier things have happened when you're looking down the barrel of the gun and there's that much money on the line. Sometimes you just suck it up and play. So we'll see. I'm not going to probably have him anywhere because I have him so low.
I've moved him now to RB9, and which is where he went. At this point, I feel like
RB9 as well.
At this point, I feel like at least Jacobs is healthy. I know he's not with the team either, but at least at this moment, he is healthy. And I don't know if we could say the same thing about Jonathan Taylor. But at the end of the day, we may look back and Coach Hester has a steal. Like if this guy plays week 1, he's got Eckler and Taylor, and he's got the best 1-2 punch at the running back position in the draft. So we'll see this play out. Guys, I see some of the questions in the comments. We'll get to them here in just a few minutes. So let's get through just this little part of the draft as well. Like Gibbs, I like Gibbs. I'm not surprised to hear Gibbs is balling out in camp. These guys should ball out. They're young rookies. They're flashy. You know, not a lot of them are not even in pads at the moment. I like Jahmyr Gibbs as a player, but I've said it before a couple times when we did the NFC North division. We talked about the Detroit Lions, and we talked about Jahmyr Gibbs playing a very similar role to DeAndre Swift. Now, he's built differently. He could get some goal line work there, but you got Dave Montgomery, and I think that's the better value. You took him in the 6th round. I think he's going to play the Jamal Williams role and be the goal line back. So I think it's a straight on committee. And with potential goal line work and pass catching opportunities for Dave Montgomery as well. So Gibbs going ahead of Breece Hall, sure, I could get that. People are maybe a little bit concerned with Breece Hall, but ahead of Travis Etienne, ahead of Najee Harris, even Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon hasn't been super efficient, but he's really the only guy in Cincinnati at the moment. He's a great pass catching running back as well. And Samaje Perine is gone. I wouldn't be surprised if Dameon Pierce had a better season than Jahmyr Gibbs as well. So that one kind of threw me off a bit, but again, shout out to Joey Wright. This is not taking shots at any of these guys. They're all super sharp. They have their guys and they took their guys, and away you go. The 3rd round here, Breece Hall, Devontae Smith, Travis Etienne, Mark Andrews is the 2nd tight end off the board. T. Higgins, Najee Harris, to Jamie Eisenberg, again, is a good, solid RB1, low-end RB1 to go with those 2 wide receivers in Hill and CeeDee Lamb. I love that start from him. DK Metcalf, Cooper Kupp, or Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, Joe Mixon, Josh Allen, and Dameon Pierce. So you see the first quarterback go there at the end of the 3rd, and then we started to go into a little bit of a quarterback run. That first tier, Mahomes there, Deebo Samuel, and then Jalen Hurts. So 3 quarterbacks in the 4 or 5 picks there. Let's get to some of the questions. I want to say what up to everybody here. NBA Rigged in the house. Welcome. Yes, he talked up your draft yesterday. He loved your wide receivers, and I agree. I think you have the best trio there. And that's usually how I start my drafts. And you start with backs, but we kind of flip-flopped. I usually go wide receiver, maybe even a 3rd, and away we go. Ridley versus Cooper. I had this opportunity here on the draft. Just showed you. I went Cooper, Amari Cooper ahead. I'm a little concerned with Calvin Ridley. I like him. I think, he may even have a higher ceiling than Amari Cooper, but Amari Cooper's coming off his best season ever with Cleveland, and he caught most of his passes from Jacoby Brissett. So I do believe there's going to be an upgrade here with Deshaun Watson. He was used differently in Cleveland than he was in Dallas. He had more end zone targets. He had a higher ADOT. He had more yards per route run, more fantasy points per route run. And I think there's a little bit more room for him to grow. As for Calvin Ridley, new squad. He's played 5 games in 3 years. He's dealing with a foot injury. There's a lot going on there, right? There's Zay Jones, 800 yards. There's Christian Kirk, 1,000 yards. There's Evan Ingram that they re-upped and gave him a 3-year contract. So there's just a lot of different moving pieces there with Calvin Ridley. I think Amari Cooper is a touch safer, and that's the way that I went there. For Bijan Robinson, we'll get through Bijan. Definitely want to get into Cincy here and start with the NFC North in a few minutes. How close will Bijan Robinson's stats be compared to Barkley's rookie season, 1,300 yards, 11 touchdowns? Yeah, I think he can do that. I mean, that to me is Nick Chubb's floor, right? Nick Chubb has had 1,000 yards in every year but one, his rookie year. He's never had fewer than 5 yards per carry. He's arguably, the best pure runner in the game behind one of the better offensive lines in the game. He just had a career high 1,500 rushing yards. So yeah, he may catch a couple more passes than Nick Chubb, but I don't even know if that's a lock because I think Chubb is headed for a career high in terms of targets and catches. I'll share what we have for Bijan Robinson. Our projections have him for 1,100 rushing yards on 246 attempts, 8.1 touchdowns rushing. We have him for 63 targets and 49 grabs, 2 receiving touchdowns, and 369 receiving yards. So we have him for 233 fantasy points. We have Nick Chubb for 231. Our projections have Nick Chubb for more attempts, more rushing yards, more rushing touchdowns, but only 30 catches compared to 49 for Bijan. And then Derrick Henry's just a touch below at 228 as well. Jonathan Taylor now at 227. So our projections over at ftnfantasy.com, along with our rankings and things like that. Hopefully we address that question. I think he can have a similar rookie season as Saquon. Sure. The offense isn't going to be great. They want to run the ball, but the team is going to be good offensively.
And when Barkley is during his rookie season, what else was there in New York? And I know that's narrative street, but of course he touched the ball that much. I mean, they had no one at wide receiver. They had no one at tight end. Daniel Jones was rotten, right? I mean, yeah, they gave it to the best player on the field. And I'm not saying that Bijan Robinson isn't. I'm just saying there is 2 other very good running backs there. There's a quarterback that's no good.
That have proved it, right? They've proved it. They've shown us. That's the thing. There's a lot of uncertainty.
Already played. Tyler Algier had an unbelievable season when he became the back there, right? They're going to run the ball. We know that. They want to run the ball. We know that. I mean, they have another guy that they drafted in the first round, Kyle Pitts, at tight end. They're going to throw the ball to him. They're going to throw the ball to Drake London. I'm not saying that Bijan Robinson isn't a superstar player. I'm just saying taking him where he's going is just too much of a risk. And I don't think he sniffs those numbers. I just don't believe that he's going to have that much volume with that kind of personnel.
This is a good point. Atlanta's O-line is one of the better ones in the NFL. It is underrated.
100%.
Arthur Smith does a great job of running the football. He is in a good situation. It's all baked into why he's going early. And the rest of the uncertainty with some of these other running backs is why he's going early as well. 2 months ago, we saw him 8th, 9th, 10th overall, and now he's jumped up because of that, because of the Taylor, the Jacobs, the other teams that maybe are bringing in some other running back. So I get why he's moving up. And again, it's not a shot at anybody who took him. In the Superflex, he went as RB number 2 overall as well. We'll see. The fantasy community is telling me that he is going to be pretty much the best running back in fantasy football. You're drafting him at cost, but it is what it is, and we'll move on. Richard, hockey soon. I was working on my NHL rankings yesterday. They are going to be live in a week. And EY, once football is over, we are going to do a couple NHL best ball drafts on here, and we'll get into it.
Sure.
It's here, right? The Leafs got Martin Jones last night. Hockey is here, and we do want to give best wishes to Brzezis 91 as well. Speedy recovery. We hope that you are feeling good here soon, and welcome in to Set Bet Spike. Also, our guy, Rum Boys Fantasy Network. Good morning, fellas. Happy preseason Thursday. Yes, that's football here as well. From your perspective, number those 3 places. Okay, please. So rank these guys. I would rank them Jacobs, JT, and Gibbs. And I agree with the value here. Like, we're talking about JT and maybe crossing him off. But if he is sitting there in the 3rd round, I think you do take that upside and that opportunity. If for whatever reason he's traded, he's on a new team, that'd be good for him. Maybe he comes back and he plays football. But I'm just feeling like if it's in the 1st and the 2nd, it's a pick that could really hurt you. I'll just say that it's a pick that can hurt you. But if he falls a little bit, then you're good to go. But honestly, I don't like those 3 backs at all. I don't want anything to do with those 3 guys.
It's a lot of risk.
I like my wide receivers, and I want an alpha running back, my hero RB, and I'm kind of into like the Chubb, Nick Chubb. If you don't get Chubb, maybe you can do a Saquon, maybe you do a Najee. I don't know. If you get Eckler, you get CMC, you got your hero RB, and then you just attack wide receivers. Let's talk about your team here first. I don't think there's anything else really to bring up here from this draft. We can get into our squads. Again, I posted the link inside the description of this video if you wanted to see, some late round sleepers and some picks that were taken a little bit later on. But you see the quarterbacks here. No real surprise. I mean, Lamar, that's where I've moved Lamar with the Burrow injury, and we'll get into the Ravens and the Bengals in a little bit. One of the biggest steals, I think, probably here to Eisenberg again, man. Joe Burrow at 6.7, right? I mean, he goes after Fields and Herbert and Lamar because of the injury, but he was back on the field yesterday. You see the running backs, man, not only burned with Sanders and Dobbins and Akers, but, Cook went just before. Wanted James Cook there. Pacheco went just before me. Utes sniped him there. There's some sniping just happening everywhere. So you see most people, some people want to get their running backs, full moon, 3 running back starts, and you went 3 wide receivers to start. So let's get into your thoughts and your squad here. Cooper Kupp, A.J. Brown, Keenan Allen, Kenneth Walker, Justin Herbert. Then you went into the running backs, David Montgomery, Rashad Penny, Isaiah Pacheco, Juju Smith-Schuster. Back into the backs, you did snipe me with Damian Harris. He left yesterday with an injury. I'm not sure on the extent of that, but I did want Damian there. Jeff Wilson, Greg Dulcich. And don't worry about depth chart stuff. Like, if we're worried about depth chart stuff, Bijan Robinson is listed as the 3rd running back in Atlanta. So right. I don't think you need to worry about that. And yesterday, the Broncos came out with their depth chart, and Greg Dulcich was tight end number 2. I don't think you need to worry about that stuff at all. Alec Pierce, Tajay Spears, Paris Campbell, and the Saints defense. Walk me through your thoughts here with your squad. No concerns. Did you think if Cooper Kupp did fall, you were going to take him? Were you hesitant at all at that pick to take him there?
Yeah, I was. I mean, part of that is the injury. It has nothing to do with him not practicing. He's played in this system his entire career. Him and Matt Stafford have what I would consider a cosmic connection between the two. If you look back before his injury last season, I mean, he was on pace to break records, right? Like, I mean, literally break records. And the Rams weren't even good. I don't know if they're going to be good this year, but I think they'll be improved. I think with Cam Akers starting and running the ball well, which they did not have, at the start of last season, will help with Cooper Kupp. I believe he'll be ready to go game 1, but it is a risk. But with what he could do if Stafford stays healthy and he stays healthy, which you could say that about every single player, guys. Like, I mean, I get Cooper Kupp is already banged up, but if you're really super worried about injury at this point, then just don't play fantasy football, because everyone's going to get hurt. It's the NFL. It's maniac human beings running around at record-breaking speeds and smashing into each other. People are going to get hurt. This is a really weird draft for me. I never go 3 wide receivers first, but just how
feels good though, doesn't it? Doesn't it? It's a passing league, man. I love it. I love it.
I feel really good about my wide receiver position. I do not feel good about the running back position. But at this point, the running back position is so volatile. I do think that this is the way to set up a team. I believe that at this point in the NFL, like you said, it's a passing league. There is maybe 3 to 5 guys that are going to carry the majority of the balls in backfields, and the rest of the teams are committees. Really good teams are committees. Like Pacheco, like, yes, he's probably labeled as a starter and he'll carry the ball often on 1st and 2nd down, but he's not catching any. I mean, he's not going to be on the field for that at all. No. That's going to be CEH or McKinnon. Rashad Penny might carry the ball in early downs and maybe in the goal line, but Jalen Hurts is obviously still going to do that. It is a more of a crapshoot. I know that Cooper Kupp, if he's healthy and he's good, is going to be unbelievable. Same with A.J. Brown. Same with Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen is one of the most consistent players in the last decade. And getting him where I got him, I mean, is a massive, massive advantage. And Justin Herbert, who I think could end as quarterback 1 this year.
I think you have the best 3, like, in terms of wide receivers. I mean, Jake has a good 3 as well with Adams, DK, and DJ Moore. And Eisenberg has Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, and Calvin Ridley. Like, you guys have the best trio of wide receivers. You already said it with your running backs. All these running backs are in timeshares. They're all committees, and really not a lot of them are going to catch. Walker's not going to catch. Penny and Pacheco, Damian Harris, Jeff Wilson. These guys are not going to catch passes, but they are linked to pretty solid teams. I will say that. You did a good job doing that, right? if you're going to take a running back, maybe I don't know what your mindset, but for me, splitting hairs, like Detroit, good offense. Philly, good offense. KC, good offense. Buffalo, Seattle, Miami, these are good offenses. So yeah, they're in timeshares, they're in committees, but your wide receivers will carry you. And then you got Herbert and Keenan Allen there. A little bit of a different build here for me. And usually I am wide receiver heavy. I went with Chubb because I feel like there's some running backs that I could take later on. And I just got sniped with some of them. So I'll say here off the top, I don't love my running backs, but I'm really going to need Javonte Williams to pan out. And I'm a big believer in Javonte Williams. If you guys been listening to me and following me over the past couple of years and even over the past few weeks, I'm not surprised to see the rise here of Javonte Williams. We'd taken him in the 10th round all summer long. Now he's creeping up into the 6th, and I think he's going to creep up into the 4th, end of the 4th. In high-stakes leagues, I'm seeing him go into the 4th. He's cleared for contact. He's on the field. He's ahead of schedule, and I love Sean Payton and what he's been able to do with his running back. So I feel like I got an alpha there in Chubb. I kind of did something different here in Hawkinson and Fields. I typically... I have said a few times I want a top 8 quarterback, so I'm no issues there with Fields in the 5th round for me. He had 1,100 rushing yards last year. You bring in DJ Moore to the squad. I think he's going to improve as a passer. QB6 last year, despite him only throwing for like 2,000 passing yards and like no passing touchdowns. So you bring in an alpha like DJ, and I think he will take a leap forward like Hurts did when they brought in A.J. Brown, like Allen did when they brought in Stephon Diggs. But my wide receiver 3 is Pickens. That's why I went down again on Quentin Johnson. I'm hoping one of those two pan out. I kind of went off the rails with the Mingo pick. I actually had Nico Collins ranked ahead, and I took Mingo, and Jake took Nico Collins right after. I'm like, yeah, that's probably what I should have did. But I believe in Mingo more so than Thielen and DJ Chark. So I just want one of those 3 guys, hopefully 2 of those 3 guys to pan out. Another rookie in Jaden Reed. I got a young squad here. But I think Jaden Reed and Christian Watson are 2 of my favorite targets. If I don't get Watson, I want Jaden Reed or vice versa, because I think he's got a solidified spot in the slot in Green Bay. And I think Jordan Love's going to impress some people. So I don't shy away from the Green Bay Packers wide receiver trio. I like Reed a little bit more than Dobbs, but I think both of those guys in the middle, late rounds of your draft are all right. So Garrett Wilson with Amari Cooper. TJ Hawkinson was second behind Travis Kelce in catches last season. In Minnesota, he averaged 6 catches per game over the 10 matches he had with the Vikings. That's just behind Travis Kelce at 6.4, and he was on pace for 102 grabs, and Kelce had 110. Now, will he get 102 grabs? Maybe not, but he's going to be the number 2 target behind Justin Jefferson. He was getting a lot of looks from Kirk Cousins in the red zone. I kind of view him as my wide receiver 3, and usually I'm scrambling at the tight end position. I wanted to go a different way, and I attacked it a little bit earlier than normal, which kind of hurts, your running back 2 or your wide receiver 3. So Pickens, there may not be enough volume for him. I do believe the Steelers are a run-first team. We'll get into them in just a touch here. But I think Pickens is going to be a lot closer than Deontay Johnson. In fact, I'd rather Pickens than Deontay Johnson. I'm probably alone in thinking that, but I think Pickens has a higher ceiling. I think he's a better athlete and better hands, better route runner. Deontay Johnson is good. I mean, he's going to probably get more targets realistically, but I'm a Pickens guy here. So Jerick McKinnon, 9 receiving touchdowns. I'm going to need him to pan out. He's probably not going to get 9. I need Zeke to go somewhere as well. And wherever he goes, Zeke will have a goal line role. If he goes to New England, Ramondre will still probably be the lead there. But Zeke has been one of the better goal line backs in the NFL. So I need him to sign immediately. But if Javonte Williams doesn't pan out here, I could be in a tough spot. But I got a nice rushing floor there from Justin Fields. And Sean Tucker is a little bit of a late flyer there. Kenneth Gainwell. I mean, Rashad Penny and DeAndre Swift have never had a full season, so maybe Kenneth Gainwell is the starting running back come week 6 or 7. We'll see what happens. But those are the squads. That's the draft. Link inside the description here if you want to take a look at the deeper rounds and see how the rest of the draft folded. Jake Seeley waited for a quarterback. He got himself Anthony Richardson in the 12th. I think that's a decent strategy as well if you want to wait. And he paired him up with Geno Smith to roll out Geno Smith for the first couple weeks, assuming Richardson doesn't start this season. So a lot of people waiting at tight end, and that's kind of what I like to do. And I wrote up Hawkinson a couple weeks ago at FTN Fantasy.com, and I just kind of fell in love with his outlook and his upside here in what will be a pass happy offense. And I don't think Minnesota is going to have a lot of I think they're going to struggle to run the football personally. So a little bit of
So do I.
Hawkinson, a ton of games with double-digit targets last year in Minnesota. The fact that he got a 21% target share, just getting thrown in to a team and an offense halfway through the season tells me a lot. They have big plans for him, and now he's going to learn the playbook, get more familiar with Kirk Cousins. And I like JJ, clearly, but teams were starting to triple him towards the end of last season, which was leaving Hawkinson open as a nice little safety valve there for Kirk Cousins. All right, we got about 16 minutes to roll through 4 teams. Let's start here with the Cincinnati Bengals. As we mentioned, Joe Burrow is back with the squad. A couple weeks ago, he left with a calf injury. He did return to practice yesterday. He's going as quarterback 5. So he's fallen down a touch here, just a little bit. As we mentioned in the draft as well, he went as, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, quarterback 7 to Jamie, the 7th pick in the 6th round. Joe Mixon is RB15. Chase Brown on the squad as well. No Samaje Perine there, RB61. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Irv Smith. I don't think we need to spend a whole lot of time here. I mean, Jamar Chase is a stud. He's got the 2nd most touchdowns in the NFL among wide receivers since he entered the league. And I mean, him and Joe Burrow, their connection go all the way back to the LSU days. T. Higgins, I think, is he's in that tier for me with those other wide receivers. Like, T. Higgins is like a 1B on his squad. Devontae Smith, a 1B on his squad. Jalen Waddle, 1B on his squad, right? These guys are in that same tier for me. They're almost ones. They'd be ones on another team. But Tyler Boyd, wide receiver 51, not a lot of upside there for him. Irv Smith, you know, I've been down this road before. I think he's a good player when he's healthy. We've seen some moments from Hayden Hurst. He could be something in a best ball format or a 2 tight end league or something like that. But I got no issues with any of these players. I have no issues drafting Joe Burrow. I think he's going to be fine. Mixon, is that one guy that you're into, you're out on? Because I know you like Chase and you like Higgins. Any concerns with Joe Mixon? I know he hasn't been super efficient, but I mean, ultimately, the backfield is his. The goal line work is his, and he's going to catch another 50 passes out of the backfield.
Yeah, I mean, athletically, I think he's one of the most gifted athletes in the NFL, the running back position. I don't think that's a stretch. Size, power, speed, explosion, can run routes, can catch the ball. I mean, he does everything, and I think will do everything. I don't think there's a ton of competition there. They've restructured his contract. They're not paying him as much. This will likely be the last year he plays in Cincinnati because of just the running back market, and basically every general manager has decided we're not paying him. I might regret picking Keenan Allen over him. I was like humming and hawing and not sure what I could do. I ended up taking Keenan Allen. But I think at that point, that might come back to bite me because I still think it could very possibly be a top 12 running back. And that wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, I think Mixon is a touch underrated as well. I mean, there's some off-field issues I think kind of baked into him falling down a little bit. Yeah. I know that his court case, I think, opened up again. I think Cincinnati announced that on Friday. So I'm not too, it's kind of like a news dumpy thing that was just, Friday afternoon, kind of sweep it under the rug type deal. So Jake Seeley seems a little bit more concerned than most, and we just don't know at this point. But I'm sure the Bengals were aware when they restructured his contract. I mean, the O-line is still trash, right, in Cincy, and he's going to have some games where, I mean, he's not super efficient, but I think he'll make up for it, with just the offense being so good. And we know that he's going to catch a few passes out of the backfield. As for the team itself, I mean, we got the win total here at 11.5. There's some 10.5s using our prop shop free tool over at ftnbets.com. The 10.5, the over is completely juiced. They're plus 160 to win the division. They're plus 550 to win the conference and 11-1 to win the Super Bowl. I mean, Joe Burrow, he was the first quarterback. He's the first quarterback ever to be taken first overall and bring his team to the Super Bowl within 2 years. You remember year one, his season was cut short with an injury. And then in year two, getting eased back into action, he brought his team all the way to the Super Bowl, which is crazy because you got to think about how bad this team was when they took him first overall. They had the first overall pick for a reason. I know that they got some pieces in Jamar Chase, and they've really, tried to get better defensively, and they have been better defensively over the past couple of years through free agency, and they've done some things through free agency to their offensive line as well. Do you think that this is the team to beat in the division? This is a tough division to call, man. There's four solid teams here.
I think they're the best. I mean, Burrow is one of my favorite players to watch in the NFL. We've talked about this on a bunch of shows. Everyone's saying, this O line and this D line and this, that, and the other. I mean, nobody knows. It's everyone going into last season was like, look at how good this O line of Cincinnati is. They've got this player and they got that player, massive upgrades, and they're going to be top 10 O line. And they were brutal. And saying that they're going to be brutal again is a complete guess again. Now they've had a year to play together. The O-line is a unit, and all 4 or 5 pieces have to work together for it to work. And maybe they'll be way better. Maybe they'll be the O-line we all thought they were. Not me. The O-line everyone thought they were going to be last year. Maybe that happens this year. So I think predicting offensive and defensive line play is an absolute fool's errand, like most of this stuff is. So I think that the O-line will be improved. I don't think they will be as bad as they were last year, and that could be a big boost for Joe Mixon.
Orlando Brown, the addition of him is really good for the offensive line. I like that signing. They start the season Cleveland and Baltimore, so inside the division, it's not easy. Then they get a little bit of some soft opponents with the Chargers, the Rams, the Titans, and the Arizona Cardinals, followed by the Seahawks. And then out of the bye, there's some tough spots here in San Fran, then home to Buffalo. Texans will be a layup for them. In Baltimore is going to be tough. Then home to Pittsburgh, in Jacksonville, then the Colts, Vikings, Steelers, Chiefs, and Browns to wrap it up. So a really tough schedule for them, but they do have a couple layups in there as well. Let's move on to Baltimore. Let's talk about the Ravens. We'll try to get to your questions towards the end, guys. Hawkinson's a stud. It was a touch early on Hawkinson, but as I said earlier, I think he's in for like 100 grabs. I kind of view him as like a wide receiver 3, right? I was looking at DJ Moore. I was looking at Calvin Ridley, and I thought, you know what? I want to have the edge at the tight end position. I knew he wasn't going to be there for me on the way back, and he's a guy that I like. He's kind of one of my guys, so that's why I went TJ Hawkinson and what I think will be a pass-happy offense, and I like Kevin O'Connell as a play caller. So I'm just, that's how I viewed it. I thought there was a little bit more, instead of going to DJ Moore, my tight end is like kind of just okay. I think I have one of the better tight ends in Hawkinson. Lamar Jackson, quarterback 4, J.K. Dobbins, running back 21, Gus Edwards, RB 57, then a trio of wide receivers. And these 3 guys, and Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, and Odell Beckham Jr. were all within 4 or 5 picks of each other a couple weeks ago. Now Zay Flowers is really jumping up draft boards as wide receiver 41. I'm not surprised. All you're going to hear in camp is how great Zay Flowers is. He's going to impress more so than Bateman and Odell Beckham Jr. But Bateman is back with the team. Lamar Jackson yesterday called him his wide receiver 1, which was interesting. He's as wide receiver 48, Odell Beckham Jr. as wide receiver 52, Mark Andrews there as tight end 2. A lot going on here all of a sudden, right? This is probably the best core that Lamar Jackson's ever had. Todd Monken is in town. This is going to be a very different offense. We're used to this team just being run with no wide receiver options. I mean, I think this time last year we were talking about Duvernay as the guy who had the most catches out of anyone in this wide receiver room, and really nothing happened. Lamar got hurt, and all these other guys couldn't step up and do anything. I mean, they had Deshaun Jackson on the squad for a minute or two. They just had nothing at the wide receiver room. They ran 11 personnel fewer than anybody last year. This is going to be a very, very different defense. Offense. If you had the choice between Flowers, Bateman, and Beckham, you're on the clock. Where are you going? Or do you even want any of them? Choose one, but do you want any of them? Oh, you're Beckham. Okay.
Beckham. I mean, nobody knows these players better than the teams that are paying for their services. And they gave him, what was it, $15 million? Guys, if he's healthy, and like I said, you can say that about every player, when he plays, he could be easily a number 1 wide receiver. He's done it in the past. I mean, they go through physicals, they get him on the field before they pay him this kind of money. They don't just guess, right? Like there's millions and millions of dollars on the line, billions of dollars on the line. If you go to the Super Bowl and stuff like that, I mean, him going at 109 might be the biggest value right now in fantasy football. Look, I get Zay Flowers and everyone's really excited about it. He's a rookie. But nobody knows. Hasn't played it down in the NFL. Rashard Bateman can't stay healthy. He was definitely their undoubted number 1 last year. And when he was healthy, looked pretty decent. This will be a completely different offense, a completely differently run offense. People have always said that Lamar Jackson can't throw. That's incorrect. I mean, he's not Aaron Rodgers, right? But he's a very good thrower of the football. He's just never been asked to do it. And he's going to be asked to do it this year. Like you said, the best wide receiving core he's ever played with. And if you can get Odell Beckham at the 100th pick, I would say do it. I bet you I have him on 85-90% of my best ball teams because of where he's going.
Yeah, he's the cheaper of the three, and Flowers' price is starting to get a little bit uncomfortable. I've always been Zay Flowers. I just feel like he does a great job of separating and getting open. And this offense can be hard to defend. Like, how do you defend this? You got Mark Andrews, who's a mismatch. You gotta have to kind of double him. You have Odell Beckham Jr., who's a great route runner, so you have to just kind of pay attention to him anyways, just based on resume. Rashad Bateman can stretch the field. Zay Flowers may be rotating at times with Rashad Bateman, but he's a guy that I believe in. You know, Bateman's never really shown us that he can stay healthy. Like, great, yeah, when he's on the field, he's solid. And then you have to worry about the dual threat ability of Lamar Jackson. So where do you help as a defender? It's going to be a very interesting offense. I like Flowers the most. I understand what you're saying. And Odell, Andrews, just a touch early for me. Think he's going to be just fine. If you have him, it's just fine. Lamar, I love. He's my quarterback 4 as well, right? The upside is tremendous, especially now bringing in some wide receivers. And I really like J.K. Dobbins. I wrote up J.K. Dobbins as well as one of my favorite targets. I don't really like a lot of running backs in this range. Him and Miles Sanders do stand out to me. Cam Akers as well. As J.K. Dobbins, you know, last year wasn't fully healthy coming back. He doesn't have a lot of games on the resume, but he's been super efficient. He doesn't need a lot of touches to be efficient. And go look at his rookie season, man. He was like 8 touchdowns in his last 8 games. He was catching a couple passes. I think if he gets 15 touches in this offense, you know, he could be a guy that's kind of flirting with 100 yards, got nice breakaway speed. I like Dobbins as a player quite a bit, but of course, he's not a lock to get those touches inside the red zone. It could go to Gus Edwards. Lamar could call his own number as well. The Ravens 10.5 plus 235 to win the division, 11-1 to win the conference, 20-1 to win the Super Bowl. I think they're an interesting, quote unquote, long shot bet to win the Super Bowl. I think that the Brownies are a better long shot bet to win the Super Bowl at plus 35. I got them at plus 44, 44-1, excuse me. A few weeks ago. It's just a little bit of a sprinkle there. They're 4-1 to win the division. They're 20-1 to win the conference, and their win total is at 9.5. We'll take a look at some of their weapons. I thought they did a great job buying low in real life on Elijah Moore. He's going as wide receiver 44. Amari Cooper, we touched on earlier, as wide receiver 17. Jerome Ford, running back 52, did suffer an injury the other day. I will keep an eye on that. Deshaun Watson as quarterback 9 looked awful, looked brutal when he was playing for Cleveland. But again, he hadn't played for a couple years. Now he's learning the playbook with the team in the offseason. I expect him to be much better. Nick Chubb is RB4. I don't think we need to go into him too much. But what I will say about Chubb, well, people say he doesn't catch any passes. His last 7 games as a rookie averaged just over 2 catches per game. He was on pace for 50 grabs in his sophomore season before the team brought in Kareem Hunt at the halfway point. Kareem Hunt is gone. That's 40-plus targets, gone. 125 carries, gone. 25 carries inside the red zone, gone. How many times have we watched Cleveland inside the red zone and the red zone packages, Chubb's on the sidelines, and Kareem Hunt is near the goal line? That's just not going to happen. Jerome Ford won't be involved in a lot of red zone packages. Nick Chubb will be on the field. How many more carries can he handle? Probably not a whole lot, but he's going to get more red zone carries. He's going to get more targets out of the backfield. And in week 18 with Watson, I think it was a sign of things to come. 6 targets, 5 grabs, 40-some-odd receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown for Nick Chubb. This guy can do it all. Donovan Peoples-Jones, wide receiver 71. David Njoku as tight end 9. Talk to me about a player or two. Anybody you like on this board, dislike on this board?
Yeah, I mean, Nick Chubb, is my favorite player on this board. I mean, I've got him ranked very, very high. You broke my heart when you took him at the flex draft because I wanted him and was hoping that he was going to make it. I didn't think that he would, but I was really hoping, and it got close. Njoku, I think, is a really good value. He's, proven to be, he's a freak athlete. The volume just never has really been there because of the quarterback play. I think Deshaun Watson, where he's going, could be an unbelievable value if he turns back into the quarterback that he was before he left Texas. He's got good wheels, can run, good arm, accurate, good power down the field. Deshaun Watson is a freak athlete, all the off-field stuff aside. Would it surprise you if he was a top 6 quarterback this year? Wouldn't surprise me.
No.
Yeah, and I love your pick of Amari Cooper where you took him. I love Amari Cooper. Like you said, the best statistical year of his career And he had Jacoby Brissett. Like, look at Jacoby Brissett is 10 times the athlete that I'll ever be, but he is not a good quarterback by NFL standards and never has been.
Right.
He, he's a guy that you love having in the locker room. He battled, he plays hard. He just, leaves it all in the field. He's just not that good by NFL standards. And he had his best statistical year. This year with Deshaun, it could be even better. So I love Amari Cooper. Browns are going to be in it all the way here. I think they're going to be much improved.
Yeah, me too. I like Elijah Moore as a target as well. I'm a little bit worried about Donovan Peoples-Jones. He had some moments last year as a deep threat guy in this offense. They also have Cedric Tillman on the squad. So I'm kind of out on him, although he's fairly cheap if you want to take a shot on him and Tillman. Njoku is fine. I typically wait a little bit more for Nkonkwo or Dalton Schultz in that range, or Greg Dulcich, which you took in the flex league. But I like Elijah, man. He's a good player. Everybody liked Elijah Moore this time last year with Zach Wilson under center. Everybody wanted to draft him ahead of Garrett Wilson, which I thought was just freaking bonkers. And now he's in a better situation with a better quarterback and most likely a better offense. This isn't going to be a run-heavy offense as we're used to seeing. So don't be surprised if we see like Amari Cooper, Njoku, and Elijah Mitchell eat in this offense. So the Browns are sneaky good. I think they're an interesting flyer here at 4-1. And as I mentioned, 35-1 to win the Super Bowl. Let's wrap up with the Steelers. They're the longest shot here. They are a run-first team. I don't know if they're going to open it up a little bit more for Kenny Pickett, but down the stretch when they transitioned from Mitch Trubisky to Kenny Pickett, they did run the football a little bit more with Najee Harris. Najee Harris is also healthier down the stretch. Remember, he opened up the season last year with a Liz Frank injury. He battled through that. So he wasn't super great at the start of the season, but he had a really good second half. Their win total is at 8.5 here. They're plus 550 to win the division, 35-1 to win the conference, and long shots here at 60-1 to win the Super Bowl. They're not a team that I think can win the Super Bowl, but EY, they're a team that you can never count out because Mike Tomlin has always got the best of his squads. You can always count on like a 500 record. Even last year, right? You count them out, boom, they're right there at the end of the season. Kenny Pickett is quarterback 24. He doesn't have a game with 2 passing touchdowns. He does have some sneaky upside in terms of rushing the ball. I think he's an okay number 2 or maybe better number 3 in Superflex leagues. I'm not totally in on him. Najee Harris is RB13. I thought, last year, he's not going to have the same type of season with Big Ben catching 70 passes like he did in his rookie season. Ben just chucking it down, but he can catch, and he did show us that he's healthy. But Jalen Warren's a nice little running back as well that I think deserves a few touches. And as I mentioned, this is a run-first team. Deontay Johnson, wide receiver 29, caught 0 touchdowns last year. That's not going to happen this year. That's why you're getting a bit of a discount. For me, I take the discount on George Pickens, going roughly 20 picks later as wide receiver 38. Allen Robinson's just on the board to remind you guys that he's a Steeler now. I don't bother with him. I just don't think there's going to be enough volume. And Pat Freiermuth I like as well, but volume is a concern for me as tight end 10. I just don't think that Kenny Pickett's a guy that's going to be dropping back 40-plus times. They rely on their defense. They run the rock. This is how the Steelers have always played football.
Yeah, Tomlin's a great coach. Even with bad teams, they're always right in the mix and super competitive. I agree with you 100%. They're going to run the ball. I think Jalen Warren will have an even bigger share than he had last year. I mean,
he's good, man.
I get that Najee Harris was hurt, but Jalen Warren looked like a better athlete and a better running back last year.
He did.
You can't ignore that. And I don't think Tomlin will. I mean, everyone wants to argue that Tomlin has always been a one-back guy, but the reality is you know what Tomlin's in the business of? Winning football games. And Jalen Warren is a really good player. So I think he's going to have a bigger share. Kenny Pickett, I think, improves. But like you said, they're going to run the ball here. I love Deontay Johnson. I love the value of Deontay Johnson. I mean, his touchdowns are going to regress to the mean. I mean, there's no way he's going to catch that few with that kind of volume again. And I think the biggest value is for Pat Freiermuth. I mean, Freiermuth is what Atlanta wants Pitts to be. It's like statistically, he's been a very, very, very good tight end and was drafted after Pitts in that draft, but has been the better player and the better statistical fantasy option at tight end. So, I mean, the Steelers will be in the mix, but I think that Pickett is just somebody I don't believe in yet. I want to because I have him in my dynasty league.
I know. I don't fully either. I think I don't fully either. This is interesting. We got to get out of here, but That's a possibility that could happen, right? A little Kyler to Pittsburgh, because I think Arizona is going to be the worst team in football, and I think they're going to the first pick, and I think they'll move on from Kyler and maybe a little Caleb Williams in their life. But that is an interesting little scenario there, NBA rigged, for Kyler Murray to be a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. We appreciate you guys. I know we kind of rapid fire through that. I like the under the Steelers. I think the Steelers have a pretty tough schedule, and I definitely think that they're number 4 in this division. It's a tough division, right? There's going to be a lot of teams splitting with each other, but the Steelers do have a touch of a tough schedule. So I got a little bit of a lean to the under 8.5. I think they're like an 8-win team, but I agree. I think that there is some upside with one of those two guys. I'm just a little bit concerned of the volume. I think that they don't fully trust Kenny Pickett, but if he can open up the playbook a little bit more, maybe they'll lean on his arm. But I think they want to lean on the legs of Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. I think those two guys are pretty good targets in your drafts as well. All right, we got to get out of here. Again, we appreciate you guys. Any questions, hit us up. Next week, we can go over that draft again or any other team, but we'll dive into sleepers and busts and breakouts. We'll really just show you guys our guys leading up to drafts, and we'll do a couple drafts with you as well very, very soon. And we will set up a set bet spike seasonal fantasy football league where we can all have a little bit of fun as well. NBA rigged. I know you want that one, dude. I know you want to be in that one. EY, thank you, dude. George, cheers. Game Plus Network. Peace. We'll see you next week. Cheers.